Hey guys. Okay, so those of you that saw last week's video would know that it was kind of like a part 1 to a 2, maybe 3-part video series on the whole construction and pricing topic. See, I think there's a real lack of awareness or understanding out there at the moment as to exactly what is driving these price increases within the Brisbane market. And I feel as a result, builders are rather unfairly copping a lot of heat and pressure because people are just jumping to the conclusion or making the assumption that builders are being greedy, that they're price gouging, that they're just taking that bit extra when they don't need to. And 99% of the time, that is just simply not the case. So like I said last week, I want to use our videos to kind of spread some awareness or understanding as to what the drivers actually are so that I can do my bit to try and take some of that heat and pressure off the builders. Now, if you saw last week's video, you know that this has all come about from a presentation that I did a week or so ago now. Time flies when you're having fun, might be a little bit longer. But basically, I was interviewing Jason from Brett's and Ben from Spencer Constructions, and we were looking at the material side of things as well as the build side of things to try and get an understanding of what factors were driving the increases, or what had driven the increases, I should say, what the increases were in terms of percentages across the various different aspects of the process, and then to look to the future to see where things were going to go going from this point forward. What factors or considerations do we need to keep in the back of our mind? Anyway, last week's video, we focused on the material side of things, which is Jason's side of things. This week, we're going to focus on the build side of things, which is Ben's side of things. So I've got my notes here from the presentation that I took down. I'm going to refer to them, and I'm basically going to summarize the things that I picked up from that conversation with Ben. So I would probably say there's 4 key factors which have driven up the build side of the price increase. So first and foremost, pretty obvious, COVID. But what Ben said to me wasn't so obvious. So he said, first and foremost, we've got to understand that back when the lockdowns first occurred, they were being forced to minimize the number of bodies on site. Number 1, in response to the government regulations, but number 2, from their own personal operational needs and all that sort of stuff. He basically said that you can't afford for one person to get sick and for the entire team to be wiped out. The implications for that job would be huge. The delays would be massive. So they were forced to go down to like a skeleton staff to make sure they had backup support and they didn't have the spread go through the entire team. They were also forced to space out their tradies. So instead of having everyone working on site at one time, doing all the various different things, they had to kind of tag team people. As you can imagine, skeleton staff, spacing out trades, leads to longer time frames, leads to more cost and more money. But one thing he said that I hadn't quite accounted for, in addition to that previous point, was the increased overheads. So he's saying from a workplace health and safety perspective, they were being forced to pump a lot more money into, wasn't PPE, what's called, like basically masks and all that extra protection stuff that you had on site. But then also they were forced to spend a lot more man hours updating procedures and coming up with new procedures to be able to deal with this constantly evolving environment. As you can understand, purchasing products, man hours on procedures equals money. Now, we fast forward to today. Obviously, that was focused more on the lockdown side of things in the initial phase of the whole COVID dilemma. I was about to say a different word there. Watch my language. But anyway, now we fast forward to today and we're actually dealing with people genuinely being sick. So unlike myself, I had COVID a few weeks ago now. Time flies. I have no idea when it was. But basically a few weeks ago, something like that. I was basically out of action for a few days. I could get in and out of bed, do a little bit of work here and there. But once I got past that initial knockout phase, I could basically get back to work, get on the computer and keep going. Physical laborers obviously don't have that luxury. They've got to actually physically get off work and isolate for 7 days. So that is having a major impact on those hands-on industries. It's causing major delays out there, just basically causing jobs to take longer. And I've just written down a stat that he gave me. In the last 2 weeks, he has had 7 of his team members off with COVID. So you can start to imagine the impact this is having out there on those businesses. So that's COVID. Now we get to number 2, baby boomers. Now, when I heard this, I was like, wow, this is a big issue. This is something we as an industry need to start dealing with sooner rather than later. And it doesn't relate necessarily, it doesn't relate to COVID at all. It was happening well before COVID. Our parents are reaching retirement age. Our parents have sort of driven's the best way to say it, the whole trade industry. So their generation, it was seen as what am I trying to say here? Basically, our parents' generation, there was a lot of people going into the trade industry. Our younger generation, everyone's too prim and proper for that. Everyone wants an office-based job. Guilty here. So as a result, we've got a lot of people leaving the industry as they're retiring, but we don't have the same number of people entering the industry. So it means that a lot of the contractors out there can basically demand their price or name their price. They know that they're in demand, supply and demand economics there. They can turn around and go, yeah, you need me more than I need you. You can double my price. Thank you very much. Not that extreme, but you get what I'm trying to go here. Basically, they know that they can increase their prices and people are desperate enough that they will pay it. Now we go to number 3, liquidated damages and bonuses. So most contracts out there, HIA, master builders, those sort of things, will have the liquidated damages clauses in there. So in super simple terms, what that means is basically that if you go over the deadline, you have to start paying, you as the builder have to start paying the client money back. So it's kind of like a penalty if you don't meet the agreed end date. Now, obviously, everything's blowing out because of COVID and every other reason out there. So builders are under a lot of pressure as they start approaching these deadlines. So they're being forced to turn around to their tradies and their contractors and offer bonus payments to try and get them to come in on deadlines. Tradies also, like the previous point, or contractors are turning around going, yeah, again, my cost is less than the liquidated cost. You can need me more than I need you. You can pay me a premium, thank you very much. So that is all leading to those labour increases when it comes to the build or construction side of things. Let me just read my notes very quickly. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say on that point. Number 4, we come to management changes. So this was really interesting. Ben was basically saying that pre-COVID, prices pretty much were stagnant or static for up to 12 months at a time. So you could do a quote, and this shocked me. He said it takes him like 40 to 80 hours to do a quote, a proper quote for people. So you could do one of those quotes, go to all that effort, and you know that 6 months' time, if the client wants to go ahead at that point, you're pretty much going to be on point. You can still hold that value. Now, prices are literally changing week by week. So he's finding instead of his supervisors being there to basically ensure jobs stay on track and keep things moving, they're being forced to be negotiators, schedulers, everything under the sun. So they're being forced to go back and redo these quotes over and over and over again. And they're being forced to try and source alternate material locations, try and get things in on budget or get things there on time, etc., etc. And it's basically tripled the number of man hours that they're spending on office type work. So rather than physical construction type work. And again, pretty obvious, but the more man hours you're putting into something, the more you have to charge for something. So that was my 4 points. Basically, COVID, baby boomers means lack of people coming into the industry, liquidated damages / bonuses, and management changes to the way that we actually do processes and all of that sort of stuff. Now, like last week, I just want to put it out there to say this is not going to be a comprehensive list. This is just a short, sharp summary of the things that came up in the presentation that we did. I would like to strongly encourage people to add comments below on additional things that they've seen or they've heard or they think may play into this whole conversation. I want to keep this conversation going so we can spread some more awareness and, like I said, take a bit of heat and pressure off the builders out there. Now, next week, if everything goes to plan, we'll look to the future. So we'll start to go, okay, what sort of factors are coming up on the horizon? The Russia scenario, for example, how is that going to affect construction prices over the next 6 to 12 months? So I think that covers off everything I want to say. As I always say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane Town Planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all.